Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. We're here to talk to you about the SDG Loan Fund. It was and is an illustration of how a bilateral development bank, at the time with an 8 billion balance sheet, attracted $1 billion of private capital to co-invest alongside them in emerging and frontier markets. It's a true partnership and a true example of private capital mobilization with a 1-to-9 private capital mobilization ratio. The story we all know. 4.2 trillion SDG loan funding gap, private capital is needed. The last three COPs, a lot of private capital commitment, but where are the flows? They aren't coming for two primary reasons: risk and access. Some say perception of risk and also access. When we look at risk, if I look at the balance sheets of European insurance companies, the majority of their balance sheet, of 65%, is in debt investments. And of that, 98% investment grade. Those of you that invest in emerging markets know how many countries are in emerging market indeed investment grade. Hardly any. So the emerging markets allocation tends to be somewhere between 2 and 3% for most of those trillions of assets that we're all trying to think, how do they come into emerging markets? And then when we look at the ways, so when we think about how do investors access emerging markets, we usually think about public indices. So this is the SEMBI index. These are the top 20 countries. And the blue part is where the SEMBI actually invests. Or at least South Africa is represented. Furthermore, when we look into the index and what does it actually invest in, it's financial institutions, i.e. a bet on global liquidity. It's real estate. Sectors such as infrastructure, agriculture, small and medium enterprises are completely not represented. So when we started this project, that was a challenge. That was what we were trying to solve. And the solution came through a partnership.
Yes. So I'm the director of partnerships for impact. So the right person, right, for making up partnerships. And we made a partnership with Allianz and also with the MacArthur Foundation. And you see here, let's say, what we do as FMO, the strength of Allianz and the strength of the MacArthur Foundation, and we combined it. And then we go to the next slide. Yeah, before we go actually to the setup of the funds, we use the investments of FMO. We are active in three focus sectors: energy, agri, and financial institutions. We focus on the three SDGs. We have an ambition for 2030 to grow to 20 billion, mainly focused on reducing inequalities and climate. We do senior debt investments. That all mixed up came to a fund. And that's this fund. Actually, it's relatively simple. The big advantage for Allianz, I would say, is the guarantee of the MacArthur Foundation of 25 million. Then FMO acts as a junior investor of almost 100 million, a bit more. So all the loans are originated by FMO, and then Allianz, together with other institutional investors, acts as a senior investor for 1 billion. And it's all high impact loans in emerging and frontier markets in our focus areas: financial institutions, energy, and agri. And we aim to invest the fund in 4 to 5 years, and we are well on track. We invested now 270 million in the first year.
So what the SDG Loan Fund really brings is the strengths of each of the parties into one equation. The track record of a development finance institution that knows its market, its presence in its market, knows the borrowers and the investee companies inside out. It brings up the credibility of that long track record that is backed by data. It brings the institutional power of a balance sheet of a number of European insurance companies of 1 billion. It brings the flexibility of MacArthur Foundation in terms of the instrument that help us de-risk the structure. So that 25 million unlocked FMO's 111 million first loss. That unlocked a billion. So the flexibility of the MacArthur Foundation was really crucial. And that partnership all together made it work, really levering on all of our strengths together. Where the fund differentiates itself, it really is, it was private sector investigated. It's one of the first blended finance funds where we chased FMO at a conference in the Netherlands because they had this really interesting setup. They had an independent investment management arm that was there for the purpose of private capital mobilization, which meant that the top management buy-in was there for private capital mobilization, and the incentives within the structure worked that way. And that was really, really powerful and differentiating for FMO in the market. It has a very high mobilization ratio. If you think about the MacArthur guarantee that unlocks the junior and the senior investment, that's a 1 to 44 ratio. Actually, it's a 1 to infinity because the guarantee is unfunded. Um, and then it is $1 billion of capital. That's not a small number. It's actually one of the largest blended finance debt funds out in the market. I think the mean is about 60 million.
And what I find peculiar, that only with a guarantee of only 25 million, 1 billion is mobilized, right? Because it gives you the security of that guarantee.
And I think the thing that we conclude together is we have to meet investors where they are. We have to use the strengths of each of our institutions to bring them together. And it is possible to achieve scale. But scale in itself has to be a priority for the structure. So from now, we hope to be able to replicate, increase, and scale further, and we hope others can learn. The fund has attracted quite a lot of attention in terms of structure, and we have been very vocal out there of what we have done and how we've achieved this. Thank you for your attention.